Hi everybody, this is Module 4, Lesson 10, Simple Interest. We're going to pay attention to that word there, simple. There is something called compound interest, but we're only going to be talking about simple interest. So what is simple interest and how do we calculate it? So you've got your essential question written down, and now we're going to be talking about what interest is and how we find it. How we find it is we do the principal times the rate times the time. Well, what are all these words? What do they mean? So I is the interest. If you've heard of the word interest, and you can even ask an adult that knows, interest is the amount of money. It can be like if you put money into a bank account and you earn what's called interest. So let's say you put some money in a bank account and you leave it there, you actually get a small percentage back based on the account. So some accounts have different interest rates. And then there's another way to think about interest where it's actually a bad thing if you are going to be paying interest. So let's say you take out a loan on something like jewelry or a TV. If you want to pay something and you don't want to pay for it all right up front with cash, you can take out a small loan on it, which sounds good, like you can pay monthly. But the problem is you also get charged interest. So you end up paying back more than what it really costs. So if you want to buy a TV, but you take out monthly loans instead of paying for it all at the same time, then each month you get charged a little bit of extra money, and that can add up over time. So again, interest can be a good thing if you're investing money, which is most of these problems that we're going to be talking about. But then again, as a consumer, that means someone who buys things, it can be a bad thing if you end up paying more than what the item cost originally. Okay, so we can talk more about some other examples, but for now we're going to talk about how to calculate interest using this formula, I equals PRT. I equals PRT, and that's all being multiplied. So principal is going to be our starting amount. Okay, rate is going to be the percent or decimal equivalent. Percent or decimal equivalent. Okay, and then time is usually in years. So how many years? Okay, so many times we're going to be given the principal, the rate, and the time, and from there we can figure out the interest, or we'll be working backwards using this equation. So let's go ahead and look at example 1. Larry invests $100 in a savings plan. That's the principal. Okay, that's the starting amount of money. The plan pays 4.5%. That's the rate. And it also could be written as a decimal. So how would we change 4.5%? Remember, it's 4.5 per 100. Or if we have 4.5%, you remember that to make that into a decimal, we have to move the decimal once, twice, and then if necessary, fill in any zeros. So for this one, a 4.5% rate is 0.045. So we want to write that for this one. Each year on his $100 account balance. Okay, so we already know that that's the principal. The following chart shows the balance on his account after each year for the next 5 years. Okay, that's the time. In fact, they show you the time being 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. So how much money will he earn in interest after 3 years or after 5 years? So let's go ahead and use that formula. Okay, I equals PRT. So we know that the principal is $100. So instead of P, we can write 100. We know that the rate is 4.5%, which is written as 0.045. And in this one, they want to know 3 years. So 3. Okay, go ahead and calculate that. Do 100 times 0.045 times 3 and figure out how much money and interest he will earn after leaving his $100 in there for 3 years. Remember, this is simple interest. Okay, did you get $13.50? Good. Go ahead and try the 5 years by yourself. And in fact, you can put it down here because the next question has to do with that. Okay, go ahead and calculate how much he will earn after 5 years. So it's the exact same thing, except you're going to use 5 instead of 3 for time. Okay, pause it and try it. Okay, if you're listening, hopefully you unpaused it. It's 100 for the principal. The rate we said is 4.5%, which is written as 0.045 times 5 years, times 5 years. Okay, what did you get? Hopefully you got $22.50. Very good. Okay, so how can you find the balance at the end of 5 years? This is not the balance in his account. That's how much interest he earned. So if he puts $100 in and leaves it alone, the bank is going to reward him with $22.50 in interest. So what happens? What is his total balance? So total balance after 5 years, that would be the $100 that he started with plus the interest, $22.50. Okay, that's a really easy problem to solve, and that's where the $122.50 comes from. So now that's his account balance. So his starting amount plus his interest will leave you with his balance. Okay? All right, let's go on to exercise 1. Exercise 1. Find the balance of a savings account at the end of 10 years if the interest earned each year is 7.5%. The principal is $500. Okay, I want you to try this on your own. Write the equation, plug in the values, and then solve. So where have you seen that before? You've seen that before when we have done measurement, when we use formulas, and that's what it is. It's an equation, and then you're plugging in the values and you're solving. And really, we did that with percents too. We had a formula set up, and then we solved it. So you're going to see that theme, repeated in math. Okay, did you write the formula? Go ahead and pause it if you haven't calculated it yet. I want to see if you can do this on your own. And be careful, they said find the balance. So there's going to be two things. So to find the interest, we first need the principal, $500, the rate, which is 7.5%. So if you're going to change 7.5% to a decimal, you need it like this, 0.075. And then we're going to leave it alone for 10 years. That's the time. Okay, this is P, the principal, R, the rate, and T, the time. Okay, if you multiply all those together, what did you get? Again, keep pausing it and try it. Make sure that you're getting it right on your own. Okay, so did you get $375? That sounds like a lot. But if you're starting with 500 and they're giving you 7.5% each year for 10 years, it will add up over time. So that's something that you'll learn when it comes to money, is that things add up over time, whether it's in a good way or a bad way. So the total balance is not $375. It is 500 plus 375, which equals $875. That's the balance. Okay, so remember, this is the principal, the starting amount. This is the interest amount. And so this is the total balance. Okay, you can try example 2 on your own, but I'm going to call that a challenge problem because it's talking about 3 months compared to a year. So 3 months out of 12 months would be this fraction, 3 over 12. So if you want to try that one, you can, and then I'll give you the answer for that. That's going to be a challenge question. Okay? All right, I would like for you to flip over to page 80 on example 3. Mrs. Williams wants to know how long it will take to earn an investment on an investment of $450 to earn $200 in interest. So she wants her interest to be $200. We know that the principal is $450. We know that the rate is 6.5%. Go ahead and make that into a decimal. I want to make sure that you know how to do that. The problem is we don't know how long. She wants to know how long. So this one's a little different. Usually we were looking for the interest or finding the interest, but this time they're saying she wants $200 in interest. So how long will that take her? So she wants to know how long she should leave her money in order for that to happen. Okay, so we're still going to use the same formula. I equals PRT. Okay, we know that the I, she wants it to be $200. So instead of I, we're actually going to write 200. We know that the principal is 450. And we know that the rate, did you change it to a decimal? Did you get 0.065? Hopefully you did. And then times the time, t. We don't know that. Okay, so the first thing we can do is simplify 450 times 0.065. Go ahead and do that. And that should be 29.25. Okay, so 200 equals 29.25 times the time. So how many years will that take her? Go ahead and solve that. What is t going to be? What do I make that in order to make it a true statement? Okay, that's division if you didn't know. So we want to do 200 divided by 29.25. So we're going to divide this side by 29.25, and we're going to divide this side by 29.25. Okay, and did you get a long decimal, 6.8376, so on and so forth? You can round that to 6.8 years. But if you want to know whole years, like how many years should she leave it in order to earn that, it has to be 7 years because 6 years wouldn't be long enough. So I would accept either one of those answers, 6.8 years, or if you're going to use whole numbers, you have to leave it for 7 years. Okay, the last one we're going to do is on page 81. So you can write skip for exercise 2. This one, it says how much time has elapsed if the interest is now $127.50. I like to pay attention to the question part, so we're looking for the time. All right, we know that a $1,500 loan has an annual interest rate of 4.25%. Oh man, that's not going to be easy. It's not 4%, it's not 4.5%, but you know what a quarter is. I know that you know what a quarter is. So interest, principal, rate, and time. What do we know? We know that the principal is $1,500. That's the starting amount or the loan. And we know that the interest rate is 4.25%. So 4.25%, that's 4.25, because you know that a quarter is 0.25, 4.25%. Change that into a decimal. I know you can do this by now. Move it over 2 times to the left if you forgot. Did you get 0.0425 for the decimal? That's the rate. Okay, how much time is the question mark? And then if the interest is now $127.50. So they gave us the interest amount. They gave us the starting principal. They gave us the rate. We're looking for how much time has gone by. If I've earned $127.50 in interest, then how much time has gone by? Okay, and actually the way they have this phrased, it's a loan. So it depends on who is borrowing this. So maybe we borrowed $1,500 with an interest rate of 4.25%. Okay, so now it's saying like we owe $127.50 in interest as well as the original loan. That's kind of like, if you could think about this in basic terms, sometimes if you lend someone $10 and a lot of time goes by and you're like, man, I think you should owe me more than $10. So what if you make them pay you back, something like $12? That's kind of what interest is. Like, okay, you can borrow this $10, but you're going to have to pay me back with interest. And that's kind of a basic understanding of that. So you don't just want your $10 back. You're thinking like, well, I'll loan this to you, but you owe me more. So that's a very, 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 very common thing in real life. So if you're not sure, or you kind of want to know some more examples, ask me, ask another adult, and we'll give you lots of examples of where interest comes into play. So this one, last thing we have to do, we just need to write our formula. Interest equals the principal times the rate times the time. Again, this is for simple interest. I know that the interest amount is $127.50. I know that the principal loan is $1,500. I know that the rate is 0.0425, but I don't know how long. I'm trying to figure out how long this loan has been lent out, really. How many years has it gone on? So go ahead and simplify the 1,500 times 0.0425 and pause it if you're not there yet. Did you get 63.75? That's basically how much interest is charged per year. So now we're trying to figure out how many years it took to get to 127.50. And you should get 2 because you're dividing both sides by 63.75. Divide this side by 63.75, and that would be 2 years as our final answer. Okay, don't forget to do your summary where you go back and answer our essential question.